You know what you want to do in retirement, but do you know how to get there? Tune in to Coasting into Retirement with Gary Marriage of Nature Coast Financial Advisors, Sunday mornings at 8 to get answers to your retirement planning questions. Plan today so you can do the things you've always dreamt about doing in retirement. Listen Sunday mornings at 8 to Coasting into Retirement with Gary Marriage of Nature Coast Financial Advisors.
Our firm offers insurance services.
That's right. It's In the Garden with Master Gardener, Carol Ann Baldwin. She's here taking all your phone calls about anything that you can grow in dirt. 622-9622 is the number to call. Carol Ann, good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
Hadn't seen you in a couple of weeks.
No, I heard you. Yeah,
I was unavoidably detained
yeah,
last
yeah,
week.
Yeah.
Not enough.
At least
not
it
enough,
wasn't. At least you didn't need bail. Yeah.
Not enough roughage in my life,
I guess. Yeah. Could be.
I would have liked bail money. That would have been pretty good.
That would've- yeah.
It'd been pretty good. Hey, we were talking off the air before we came on, and it's something I want to ask you. Today it's a heavy fog.
Yes, it is.
To the point where a Learjet, a rather large Learjet,
I didn't
took off,
see
and you couldn't even see it.
I heard it, and I'm like, oh, where?
You heard it, and you were like,
Yeah.
"Where's it at?" And it was out in that pea soup. You could not see
You
it.
could. Oh yeah, please, turn on your headlights, turn on your fog lights. Driving here from where I'm at, luckily I only saw one vehicle without headlights on, but it's like I could only see him because I was coming up to a traffic light and there was more vehicles coming the other direction, and he just happened to be in front of them all because
Right.
it was a light-colored white truck. You couldn't see him.
Yeah.
People,
Well,
turn on your lights.
there was a bad accident at mile marker 341 on the interstate, which is the Bellevue exit.
Yeah,
right
because
there.
fog related. You can't see to change lanes.
There was a multi-car accident about 7:15. Still could be in the state. I don't know what the issue is now at 27th Avenue and Highway 40.
Yeah.
You know, because of fog.
And it's across the state. It is the central part of state, coast to coast.
Right.
It's so wherever you're going, all the way down into the Orlando and South area.
We're socked in.
So if we've had this for the last few mornings. Use caution. Leave a few minutes early. Pay attention.
As I got out of my vehicle this morning here at the airport, a mist hit me.
Oh yeah,
It was
damp.
dense and damp.
Yeah.
Is that adequate water for your grass or your bushes, or if it gets on your plants and everything, can that take the place of your 7 to 10 day watering?
Not really. No, it's not enough. It's just barely. I mean, it's going to help to keep dehydration necessarily, but we don't have the wind blowing. A lot of moisture in the air. We wouldn't have had that issue really that much anyway. We still need to water. We've been very dry. I should have looked it up before we came on the air to see the last time we actually had measurable rains. But it's been a while. I want to say it's been over 2 weeks that we've had anything measurable. And even though at this time of year we're looking at that 7 to 10 day time period on irrigation for our lawns to keep our lawns from being drought stressed. Shrubberies and things like that can usually go a couple weeks if they're well established. They've been in the ground more than 2 years. That's plenty well established. They don't really need a whole lot of extra once every 3 weeks or so, on something like that. Our lawns are our most resource using parts of the lawn. Flowers, shrubs, vegetables, and things like that don't use near the amount of water that your lawn does. But you don't want it to go bad, because then you're going to put even more expense into doing a repair upon that turf area. So just keeping it irrigated on a regular basis, a thorough irrigation, not just the dew, as you were saying, isn't going to put a measurable amount of water into the ground. So you need to put that 3/4 of an inch of water down so that root system is healthy, it's deep, and can withstand these times when we have no rain coming through.
According to weather.com,
Okay.
the last measurable rain in our area, November 21st.
Okay, so we're looking at
Yeah.
two weeks.
What's that? November 21st to November 30th is 9 days, and today's the 7th. So 16 days.
16 days. So 2 weeks. So a 2-week period. So if you've not irrigated, turn
And
them
they
on,
list anything measurable as 1/10 of an inch or more.
And so that's
And they have us at 0.17 inches on the
so
on
less
the
than
16,
a quarter.
right.
So less than a quarter of an inch of rain.
The last time we had over an inch of rain was November 5th.
Okay, so that was our last good rain.
November 5th was the last time we had
Good rain. So
an inch of rain.
So a
And
month
that's here at the
ago.
airport.
Right.
That's according to the airport.
That was about a month ago. So and like I said, it's mostly the lawn is what needs it. If you have areas that you can turn off that are the shrubs, because they're fine. Shrubbery.
They want to go dormant
are
right
fine.
now anyway.
Shrubbery are fine. Trees in the landscape, they're fine. Flower beds. Now, if you've got annuals, yes, you're going to have to irrigate them. Also, but once every 10 days, probably. Once you've got them established, and if you've established them by hand watering them, you can probably even get away with just turning that on. That zone in your garden for. Once a week, once every 10 days. But the lawn, 10 days, 2 weeks, a good, thorough, deep watering, not, I'll bump it on for 15 minutes. No, put it on for run the whole zone, the whole length of time, put that 3/4 of an inch of water down, and that way it makes a sturdier root system, makes a better lawn in the long run, to where you don't need to use as much other products throughout the growing season.
Well, I heard this conversation over the weekend that a guy said, I got a couple trees I got to take down. There's going to be a lot of limbs I need to burn and all. He lives out in the country.
Right.
And he goes, I've checked the almanac. It's supposed to be a heavy dew all week.
So
it'll be a good time to burn.
Is
that actually, because right now it's the dry season, so it's
the
actually
dry
a bad
season.
time to burn usually.
Usually it is, but of course we all think of fall and winter as being the time to have that bonfire. If he's out in the country, more than likely he's got a big hole in the ground anyway that he's going to burn in. The dew is at least that there's humidity in the air, and
so it keeps things
helps
less
to keep
tinderbox.
less tinderbox. We're not breezy and things like that. So I mean, you still keep water handy.
Yeah.
You still stretch that hose out there, and
I've been to
it,
bonfires at his house. He does have
Yeah.
about a 25-foot across hole that he puts big
right.
stuff
They
in.
put
Right.
everything goes in there. The fires, you can still sit near it and enjoy.
Well, no, his
if you
can't
don't
sit
need
near
to.
it. It's huge.
Well, I mean, you get to the edge, and that's
Right.
close enough when you've got a
Right.
bonfire in there.
But a lot of people, though, sometimes get the false sense of security. Oh, it's been a heavy dew. The
Right.
ground's moist. It's not a fire hazard.
It's not. It's not moist. You would still. I mean, if you had a
Palmettos are still real brittle right now.
brittle pine straw is very. I mean, it's not necessarily going to ignite instantly. Your flames or embers going skyward probably is not as large of a problem, because the winds are low and that there is moisture in the air, and so it doesn't quite carry up as high as it would if it were much drier out.
And it's a lot of moisture in the air as it's hanging right. I mean, just above the ground.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's right. It is right there.
And
I
the
know.
sun's out. It's supposed to be a sunny day today.
Yeah, once it ever burns it off.
Right.
That big orb's got to get up pretty high and start
Although
shining down.
I laugh, and I know we live in Florida, and I know this is heavy fog, but I remember living in the mountains of North Carolina when you literally would have to open your door and look down at the yellow line on the road to be able to drive because of the fog. But it wasn't really fog there; it was more cloud.
Well, what is fog but a big cloud?
Yeah, I would wake up. There would be many mornings because the valley where Boone, North Carolina sits and all.
Oh.
It's in a valley.
Yeah, it would settle.
And literally, if it averaged a half an inch more rain a year, it would have been classified a rainforest area.
Okay.
That's how much it rained there.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it rained 5 out of 7 days a week. It
Right.
rained in Boone. But I lived about 1,100 feet above Boone. And so there would be mornings I'd wake up and sit up in my cabin and look out across the Pisgah National Forest, and the sun would be bright in the sky. And you'd look down below you and go, oh, the ceiling's kind of low.
Yeah.
Because you'd be above the clouds.
Above the clouds. And, yeah. They showed some video on the TV yesterday morning about the fog over parts of, and I've got it right. Yeah, somewhere in California. And it was this thick, if not
Oh,
thicker.
yeah.
I mean, it was crazy. But now there's a tendency to be that smog kind of stuff.
Well, yeah,
but
the Boone, North Carolina, you
it
literally
was
would
fog.
drive
you're
into
driving
the
through
clouds.
the clouds.
Oh,
Yep,
it's
you're
ridiculous.
into the
Let's talk for a minute about something along those lines. When you talk about you're in the clouds, and you brought up California and all.
Yeah.
I found out yesterday
Yeah.
they had a blizzard in
Yeah,
Hawaii over the weekend.
Yeah, up in the upper.
And somebody goes, hold on, a blizzard in Hawaii? But some of those mountains, some of those volcanoes
peaks.
are 12, 13,000 feet.
Yeah. Well, the
Blizzard, like 100-mile-an-hour winds and snow in Hawaii.
Somebody remind me what year it was, or we might be able to Google it. There was one year where Florida was the only state in all of the states, all 50 of them, that did not have snow on that specific day. Hawaii had snow. All of the rest of the United States had snow. I believe it was measurable snow, except for Florida. I see you're running to Google and see if it'll come up. But it was, but I will gladly take these the foggy mornings and the 80-degree afternoons any day over the colder weather. As anybody who knows me, knows I'm a wimp when it comes to cold weather. But we are still in, our fall. Winter doesn't start till what, the 21st? Or did winter already start?
Actually, it was March 2nd of 2015. On that day, every state had measurable snow except Florida.
Except for Florida.
March 2nd, 2015.
Right.
Every
state, Hawaii included,
had measurable snow except for Florida.
Florida.
Although when did you move to Florida?
I moved to Florida in 82.
So you weren't here in 77.
No.
77 was a terrible year in Florida.
83 was pretty
Well,
rough,
77
too.
we had Hurricane David.
Okay.
And then we had the snowstorm of 77. And we lived in Jacksonville. I was a kid in Jacksonville, and I was 11 years old. And I mean, it stayed on the ground.
I was going to say,
2 or 3 inches.
I remember hearing about it, that it closed the airport.
Yeah,
obviously.
all of it. Yeah. 77
But,
was not a good year weather-wise.
No.
For the state of Florida.
I was here in 83 when my parents' pipes burst underneath their mobile home, and then in 89, the snow we had in 89 kind of thing was the first one I had in Florida.
Or hey, somebody says it might be cold, but it's not 1977 Orlando cold.
There you go. Yeah.
It snowed in Orlando.
Yeah, and that was actually, you could say that would have been almost the beginning of the moving of the citrus industry further south.
It was January 19th, the late hours of January 18th and early 19th of 1977. They got 3/4 of an inch of snow in Orlando.
That's a lot of snow for Orlando.
Good morning, you're on with Master Gardener Carol Ann Baldwin.
Yes, good morning, guys.
Good morning,
Hugh.
Hugh.
I can remember that 77 up in Milwaukee. We had 85 wind chill below zero.
Oh.
Yeah, 77 was a bad winter.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
there was
and-
this. I remember as a kid, the bad snow. I believe that was that same front, probably, that went all the way up the East Coast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a beauty. Say, I was going to say, like Milwaukee's got like 2 climates. It's July and winter, and that's it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, okay. The reason I really called you is, on my dog walk,
Uh-huh.
I talked about the tree, the century tree.
Yeah. Your century
And-
plant. Yep.
Yeah, and it grew up to about, I don't know, 60 foot. It was really high, and then it finally broke off. It kept bending over and over and over, and then it broke off. And then where it's located, the people, there's nobody living there, so it's still there. And like you said, it's dying, and it looks kind of bad. But all around it are these new sprouts.
The little ones, yeah.
And one of the sprouts has about a 3-foot pole. And it's starting to be another century tree, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's getting ready. That one's getting ready to bloom as well.
Yeah. Now, does that really take that long for it to grow?
No. That was always just the century plant. That just became, it's an agave. Was always one of those things that it took a long time. The main plant came to its maturity, but at that time smaller plants were growing off underneath that plant that whole time it was growing. They were hidden underneath there. The one bloomed or tried to bloom. It's dying back because it had reached its maturity. It was finished. But the smaller ones underneath are popping up. Some of them are already mature enough to produce bloom. And it's just once that plant reaches that, and if you're not constantly pulling those other ones out, it just continues to be a cycle. Now, there might be a few years where there is no bloom because they're not mature enough. But if there's a second one that's getting ready to bloom, it just happened to be that one was just hidden behind there and not seen.
Yeah, because there's nobody living there. It's not giving any attention. It's kind of just rotting away, and it'll probably just eventually disappear, right?
Right. And as it deteriorates and breaks down, it's feeding the rest of them. So it's it's one of those. It's that whole cycle of life. Plant was put in. It grew. It matured. It bloomed. It was making offspring, making pups underneath. The other one, and that one dies. It's as it rots, it's feeding the rest.
Yeah. Are you saying then that if a person would be taking care of that plant, that you should pull all the other sprouts except for the one that's got the stem and leave that alone and let that grow into a big tree, right?
Not really, because that's just a bloom. That spike, that big pole that goes up from the center is the flower. That's just a flower spike. It'll go 30 feet in the air and then have, it looks like branches off the side, but that is the bloom. That is the flowering portion of that plant. Quite spectacular. I mean, just
this one got 60 foot. I mean, 60 foot sounds amazing.
They are, and I mean, it's when they fall, it's all water. They're real thick
it's
like
agave,
that. But,
so
it's an agave.
we can make tequila, right?
If you get the blue agaves, we can go for
For such a long time, I've been walking by it with my dog, and it was leaning and leaning.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, if this thing falls, it's going to fall on the road. And then one day I walked by, and the top cracked
the top
off,
had just snapped off. Had gotten too heavy. Yep.
Yeah. And it's been like that ever since now, except with these little baby guys popping up all over. So it's kind of interesting following to see what happens to it.
Sure. It'll become a large patch of them is what it'll do. It just because it's just multiplying itself.
Yeah. Will the main one still be in there? Will that bother the baby one?
Nah. No.
They'll use it as a food source,
They're using
actually.
it as a food source, and they will grow up and be large enough. You'll probably, come next spring, you probably won't even notice where that big one that had bloomed this year was. You may not even be able to tell.
Yeah. Where does that plant originate from? That isn't a United States thing, is it?
It might be native to North America, Central America, or something like that. The agave. I mean, they grow it a lot in Mexico. Because that's
what do you call the tree? The century tree?
Agave, Agave.
Agave century tree?
Yeah, you can just go agave plant.
Yeah, I would imagine it's got to stay down here in a warmer climate, right?
The handles are I guess I'd go agave plant.
It is agave. It is an American plant. It's a species of flowering plant that's part of the asparagus family, native to Mexico and the United States, particularly Texas.
There you go.
Well,
and it handles and it handles our climate because you think of Texas. I mean, Eastern Texas is moist because it's coastal, but has quite a bit of desert area, but still handles our climate without a problem because of our sandy soils.
For that thing to get 60 feet, because I know the plant he's talking about now.
Yeah.
That's massive.
Yeah, they get huge.
Hey, thanks for the call, Hugh.
Okay, take care.
Yep. When I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, he means an aloe plant.
It
looks like an aloe plant.
aloe, but just on a gigantuan.
Right. Yeah, it looks like a gargantuan aloe plant.
Right.
But it's agave.
It's an agave.
But it's not blue agave, so I can't cook it.
I mean, the blue agave does. There's a few different ones. Yeah. There's I think agave tequiliana is probably the one you're thinking of.
The agave americana is what they call the century plant.
Right.
And
that's
for that
that's
to get
the one,
60 feet, woo.
They get they're big.
Yeah.
They're big. But it is unique. It is
and
impressive.
Because this one has gotten to that point and fell over, the top fell over.
Right.
Now it's starting to rot and die and feeding all the growth around it.
Right, feeding everything. It's that whole thing. A tree. A tree grows. An oak tree grows from an acorn, grows a tree, drops leaves. Those leaves rot in the forest, feeding that tree. Nobody out there in the forest goes running around with a spreader.
Yeah, there's nobody out in the forest with fertilizer.
No. Well, there are, but it's called Bambi and.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Nobody's going out and spreading fertilizer.
Spreading the fertilizer. Right. All we got is
Nobody's coming to your shop. Nobody's coming to your shop going, Carol Ann, I need some 10-10-10 because I'm going out to the national forest and just throw it around.
And just fertilize, yeah. And I'm going to go out and mow. Yeah, no. It does,
what I'm amazed at? Sometimes I'm amazed at how quick things grow. What I mean by that is a year ago. Mm-hmm. A year ago, so it's been about a year. Okay. The city went into Ocala Golf Club.
Okay.
And we've had over 100 pine trees, either beetles or lightning.
Right. Okay, yep.
And
had to clear them out.
So they had to clear them out.
Yeah.
And it took away the teeth of the golf course.
Oh.
So where you could now hit the ball anywhere and have a shot.
Right.
10 years ago, you couldn't do that. There were pine trees everywhere.
Because the pines were,
right. Well, they went and they didn't put little, a lot of people when they cut a pine,
they put the saplings.
They put the little 1 foot tall thing.
The little sapling. Yeah.
Well, they didn't do that. The city put the 3 foot and 4 foot tall ones in there.
Okay.
That are now 7 and 8 foot and 9 foot tall. But you forget how quick a pine tree grows, especially once it gets to 3-4 feet.
And
to go from a sapling to 3 or 4 feet takes a lot longer than it takes to go from 3 or 4 feet to 7 feet.
And especially in an area where it's cared for.
Yeah.
In a forestry zone, maybe it would take longer, but
but they're fertilizing the golf course and everything, so
everything's being irrigated and it's being cared for. So of course it's going to grow much more quickly. And it's funny because I have a neighbor who has a small crepe myrtle tree, and it's in this block ring that's.
It's in a planter box almost.
In a planter box, but it's like 3 high. And my daughter always was going, why do they got this great big thing? It's a stick in there. And it was a stick for about 2 years.
And that's a big thick thing.
Well, now it's beginning to get some size. I think next spring it'll probably bloom.
Right.
Yeah, but it was so tiny, so puny. But there goes with that whole when you're planting something, especially something like a shrub or a tree, is it takes 3 years.
Right.
That first year it sleeps. It's making a root system. It's getting itself established.
Just like our citrus trees did.
Just like the citrus trees, just like anything else. If it's something larger, not your little stuff. The second year it creeps. It'll put on a little bit of growth. If it's a flowering tree, maybe you'll get a couple buds. Fruit trees, you might get a fruit or two. The third year, they really begin to grow.
Well,
they begin to flower and things like that. And that's when you start to see, oh, okay, now I know it's doing well.
Well, I asked when they put it in, I go, what can we really think these trees will really get to the point where they become bothersome on the golf course?
Right.
They said about 3-4 years.
Yeah.
Pine trees they'd be big enough then in 3-4 years.
And
they'll be 10 foot tall easy by then.
And because they're spaced well enough apart,
Right.
they will allow their girth, their root system, and everything to.
Yeah, they're all
so they're gonna
about
grow nice
15
and
feet
straight.
apart. They're all
So
about
they're
15.
They're gonna grow nice and
Well,
straight.
they got them staked, and they got the wires pulling them down. These aren't. There's a lot of pine trees, and the city spent a lot of money on them. So, and they actually put some oak trees in too.
Yeah.
Those will take longer.
Right. But even still, after about 3 years, they will begin to put some size on. That they will begin to you'll see noticeable growth each year after that. After about that third year, and like you say, the ones the city they're making sure they're getting number ones. They're not root bound. They're not,
And the horticultural specialists come out and oversaw the planting and everything.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after this short timeout. You're listening to Ocala Talks with In the Garden with Master Gardener Caroline Baldwin on The Source.
USA Radio News with Lance Pry.
A former D.C. National Guard official alleged that top Army generals lied to Congress in their testimony regarding January 6. Colonel Earl Matthews, who was serving on January 6, alleges in a memo that the official version of the military response is worthy of the best Stalinist or North Korean propagandist, and that the Pentagon Inspector General's November report on it features myriad inaccuracies, false or misleading statements, or examples of faulty analysis. The DoD continues to stand by its report.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live